Hi, everyone, and welcome to this podcast on how you should leverage change and technology to grow your business online. We have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Samriddh Dasgupta, who is the Vice President of Marketing and New Brands at Bombay Shaving Company in India. Bombay Shaving Company has been able to grow their business by tapping into new technology and leveraging consumer behavior changes. And we're really excited to hear more about their success, best practices, and lessons learned. Therefore, to start things off, Samrit, perhaps it would be best if you could tell us a little bit about the Bombay Shaving Company, especially for those who may not be familiar with the brand, and also highlight what sets your brand apart from others in the industry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Such a delight. Um, you started with change and technology, and I think Bombay Shaving Company is bang in the middle of them. We are a 4.5, 5 year old organization that started with a simple principle that we were going to reinvent the way men shave in in the country and across the world. We were deeply inspired by the changing landscape that we saw, which was emerging about 5 years back, where a lot more men were getting extremely focused on the way they looked. In fact, there's this very interesting statistic which said that more men would change. So men were changing their profile pictures on dating apps and on matrimonial websites 4 or 5 times more than they were doing earlier, and there was clearly a demand from women for men to look better. Right, Tinder had come into India. There was a lot more social media awareness. There was a lot more awareness in terms of how men should appear in front of the world, and it was a good time. It was a good time to leverage that behavior change. It was a good time to leverage the advantages of technology that were coming to the forefront in terms of being able to go direct to consumer, being able to sell to them. I think it's a good segue into the topic. Bombay Shaving Company makes grooming products for men and women. We have recently started making shaving solutions for women, and we are diversifying the portfolio and going into a full range of women's hair removal products. We understand hair removal and we understand shaving really well. That's what we are really good at. We are headquartered in Delhi, but we operate across the country. We have about 150, 175 member team. We are fortunate to have some of the biggest names in the world in FMCG and consumer goods who back us as investors, and we are delighted to have the support. We are not only an online brand, we are present across online and offline. We are omni-channel. We have about 20,000 touch points right now, and we are steadily increasing that at the retail level. We sell across 4 channels. So as I mentioned, there's retail, and then there's the website. There's e-commerce marketplaces where we sell on some fantastic partner platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Nykaa Man, and emerging platforms like Purple and so on and so forth, and social commerce. We are also very fortunate that we are a preferred brand for corporate gifting. So our B2B, which is the institutional sales side, is also a very deeply robust channel for us. So we operate across channels. Our brand equity lends itself for consumers to come and ask for our products, and we are diversifying the portfolio using the changing consumer behavior that we see right now in the market.
Wow, Samrit, that's incredible. Thank you so much for going into detail and explaining that. You've given us quite a bit of food for thought. So let's just part by part dissect what you just mentioned. So could you start by maybe going back to how you and your team monitor and evaluate the evolution of consumer behavior in India, and you turn it into opportunities for product diversification? So it's really interesting on how the applications like social media applications and dating applications changed men's consumer behavior in India. Is there any particular sort of way that your team monitors and evaluates this, or is there any kind of advice that you could give smaller to medium, mid-sized brands that are interested in leveraging this kind of behavioral changes in their own product diversifications?
Cool. Yeah, so it's a complex world, right? Um, there are two or three things that my team look at, and I'm blessed to have a team that is sort of on culture all the time. And the way we sort of look at things is the following, right? There is a larger cultural shift which becomes kind of easy to track when you look at things like Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat, where you see a lot of people creating very specific content pieces. So now, if you broadly have a sense of where your consumer is and what kind of consumer you are targeting, you can make lists, you can make cohorts, and you can sort of start to look at influencers and content creators around that side, and then you will broadly get a sense of where content pieces are moving and what are people consuming. So our team does that very skillfully. It's a manual process because you can socially listen, but we are in a sector which is very visually driven. So we like to sort of go in and look at what people are creating. So there's a team that's sort of dedicated to doing that. The second thing is that a lot of trends that catch in India are trends that sort of happen a little bit ahead of the curve in the global circuit, and then they come back here. Nowadays, that time delay has probably become less than a few days, where something just catches on globally, and then everyone sort of got it here also very, very fast. So those are the socially topical conversation pieces which we pick up again from a culture assessment perspective. So one side of this problem statement is the culture piece, right? And then we have the second part of it, which is the product piece, right? Or the consumer desire piece. That is something that we do in a far more scientific manner, where we look at what are the ingredients that are moving globally, what are the new uh, evolved markets, and in these evolved markets, what is the consumption pattern, what has changed? Are people looking at more products that are easy to carry in their bag, or are people sort of keeping them on the shelves? There is a movement towards minimalism. So how does the product packaging move towards a minimalistic perspective? If you look at our packaging, it's deeply minimal, but it's yet got the right amount of information to help you choose better and choose faster. And that's a philosophy. We have built packaging that is global, and we have built packaging to address very specific consumer requirements, consumer needs, which give you just the right amount of insight without cluttering your line of sight. So it's a difficult thing to balance, but I think as a mature team, we are being able to do that. As I mentioned, the emerging markets, so Southeast Asia, for example, is a fantastic market when it comes to skincare. European market is very, very evolved when it comes to very specific ingredients, and those ingredients become very popular across the world. We also see a lot of emerging, going back to the roots product spaces like turmeric, for example, has become a really popular ingredient in India, and we started to build out a turmeric range. Charcoal became an important range globally, and we have got a full skincare regimen in charcoal. Onion oil, again, is a classic example of how people went back to the kitchen, went back to the roots, and started to look for things that they already had at home and build hair care regimens around it. So Bombay Shaving Company believes in the idea of superfoods, and what we do is we bring very high quality superfood ingredients to your regular skincare regimens and hair care regimens and shave care and beard care regimens, to make sure the product that you get from us is ahead of the curve, is what is being accepted and probably trending globally, is good for you, it's good for the planet, it's created through a sustainable process. The packaging is minimal, reflects the amount of honesty and care that goes behind creating this product line and the brand. And all this is done through an assessment of what was moving globally, what is moving in Southeast Asia, what is moving culturally, what are people looking at when they go onto an Instagram, they go onto a Snapchat, what kind of content are they creating, and what are the skincare regimens that they're asking for. And we look at an intersection of all that information, mesh it together, and we have a consumer insights team then, which builds out the next 5-6 months sort of product portfolio looking at these emerging trends.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's great to know that brands like Bombay Shaving Company are really thinking of aspects that we sometimes as consumers don't even realize. Like, for example, your point about the packaging. Do people prefer, on-shelf products where you maybe leave it on a shelf in your washroom, or whether you want it to be mobile where you can carry it around? I think that's incredible. So just again to talk a little bit about your products, Bombay Shaving Company now sells products to both men and women. At what point did the company think that yes, we're ready to go into the market for women, or what was that sort of turning point when you knew that the company was ready for this? And I'm sure it would have been um, interesting to see how a company that has been known for making products for men shift also to making products for women. How did the company manage and tackle
Got
those
it.
opportunities and challenges?
Yeah. No, it wasn't easy. It's, in hindsight, everything seems brilliant if it works out. So thankfully, it worked out. Um, it was just during the lockdown phase, and there were two things that we realized, right? One, women were not going to go to the parlor because, well, it's not safe, and women are still not. They haven't still gone back to the salons and parlors as much as they used to before. Second, the dynamics of how the human body engagement. So by human body engagement, I mean how comfortable you are with other people touching you, right? Especially people you don't know or you haven't met before. That's going to evolve, right? And I think as a society, we're going to evolve to a point where if earlier you were very comfortable in going into a salon and letting a an expert at the salon sort of help you and guide you through your hair removal process, um, there is a certain sense of reservation now, considering the world that we're living in, and it's very psychological, yet at the same time, obviously a little practical. We recognize that trend, right? And what started off as a hypothesis, we started to validate it by speaking to some of our women customers who were already there. So Bombay Shaving Company, by the way, has always been selling to women, not necessarily products for women, but we have gender neutral products. We have had skincare and hair care products which were very highly appreciated by women. So while we were solving for men's shave and beard, we were also solving for skincare and hair care for women. So we already had that as a population. So it's not like we were not catering to that side of the market. We also are a preferred gifting brand. So women buy our gift boxes for men um, during special occasions. So during, for example, Father's Day, it's a huge thing. Rakhi, it's a big thing. A lot of women celebrate their anniversaries by buying, or their partners' birthdays by buying some of our premium gift kits. In fact, our premium gift kits they start our search volumes for Bombay Shaving Company gift kits during special occasions is tremendously high, and we are privileged to have that because we understand that the Indian consumers made us a part of their joyous occasions, and we couldn't be more privileged. Uh, so we have had women as a part of our consumer cohort, and we have always taken feedback from them, especially when we are making men's products also, because at the end of the day, a man buys a few products, but more women end up buying products for men, which is traditionally always been the case. And also, we wanted to get a sense of fragrance and everything. So we were always looking at what women like and how they would like their men to smell, for example, and how they would like their men to look. So we built on top of that. We went back to the same women and we asked them what is their current need from a hair removal perspective or a skincare perspective, hair care. And we realized that one, women were spending a lot more time in front of the camera now because of Zoom calls. They would not be able to go out. They wanted they wanted to maintain the same degree of hygiene, the same degree of cleanliness. Hair removal becomes a part of it, but the brands that were available were too far and too few. There was not one brand that they could relate to from an emerging consumer perspective. Of course, there are a few brands which are absolute behemoths in the market. And, they have one solution, which is probably a body razor solution. but the market was emerging and the category was expanding very fast. And we realized that there was a whole bunch of search volume also that was there on Amazon, and there was not one sort of organized brand which was being able to solve for emerging needs, which was both face razor, body razor, a shaving foam, and a post shave solution, right? So while different brands were trying to fulfill this in a scattered way, there was an option to bring it all together. So we said we are going to be that brand which does two things really well. We are going to start looking at products that are ahead of the curve, and that's where our Defender razor comes in. It's a phenomenal razor. It's got flex plate technology, which essentially means that the blades separate and the blades turn at very specific angles to manage the contour elevations of the body, and therefore you end up getting closer shave, but there are zero cuts, right? And it's a single stroke shave, and that's something that we had to go. We went through a lot of razors, we went through a lot of blades to try and arrive at the best one. And all this was, by the way, happening during the lockdown. So you can imagine our product teams is going back and forth, getting product shipped from different places. We have our own R&D center, so it's sort of working with a completely skeleton staff there during lockdown with social distancing, virtually almost, and then trying to figure out how this can be done. Um, then we arrived at the best face razor that is there in the market, and then we arrived at the best women's hair removal solution, which is the body razor, as well as our shaving foam and the post shave product. We were extremely proud of it, and that's when we took it to market. We deployed marketing on top of it. We got some influencers to try it. The result was phenomenal. And today we have about 7% market share in women's hair removal. We are the top brands both on Nykaa and Amazon when it comes to women's hair removal, especially the body razor and the face razor combo. And we are also selling it offline. So a lot of growth opportunity that we see ahead of us. We have just started, but the market's evolving. Women are getting a lot more DIY, so do-it-yourself solutions at home. Going out to a salon is a problematic situation. Being comfortable with someone else touching your body is a complex situation that all of us will sort of navigate as we go ahead in this very complicated world we're living in now. And brands like us, we are looking at these emerging trends and trying to find ways that people can take better care of themselves at home, or at the convenience of wherever they are without really depending on anyone else. So the way we look at it is we are empowering people, we are giving them control, we are giving them the ability to choose how they care for themselves, and we are giving them the opportunity to sort of build whatever they want to build using the different array of products that we have as their preferred hair removal solution.
That's incredible. It's super interesting to hear about how consumer behavior is changing and how brands like Bombay Shaving Company really adapted to those changes and leveraged those changes to create incredible products and to also change and contribute to the e-commerce landscape in India. So just to move to the technology side of things, where does technology fit in when it comes to tackling these opportunities and challenges and growing online? How are companies using technology, especially in the personal care industry, to grow and scale?
Yeah. So technology is in three parts the way I look at it, right? So the first is the technology that allows you to arrive at consumer insights, which we have spoken about already. There are social platforms, there's social listening platforms, there's of course Google Trends. So that's one aspect of technology which is very easy to access. It's available for everyone. I think anyone who sort of listens to this podcast would be able to just go onto Google Trends, see what's trending, go onto Instagram, go onto Snapchat, go onto Facebook, just search for a bunch of keywords and you'll see what people are trying to search, trying to find. Go onto YouTube. It's a wealth of information there. As long as you have a hypothesis, you should be able to find what you need, and you can look at emerging trends, right? So I don't want to speak about that piece too much because that's very self-explanatory. The second piece is kind of the central combination, right? Which is where you have your front end technology, which is your destination. There are two forms of technology there again. One is which is in your control, and the second one is what you rely on. What you rely on is the marketplace technology, and that's evolved. I think marketplace technology is also evolved where places like Amazon and Flipkart and Nykaa and Myntra are being able to give you far sharper insights. They're going to tell you how the category is moving. They have very evolved tools, and these tools enable emerging brands or mid-sized brands to at least get insights in terms of product movement, category movement, share of market, share of voice, and what kind of impact your brand investments have had on your overall equity within that particular platform. Right. The second piece is, and that's technology that's not in your control, because that's held, of course, by the platforms. Technology that is in your control is primarily your own direct-to-consumer channel, which is where the website comes in. And this is where things start getting very, very interesting, right? So when you build a website, it's a destination, and the destination is supposed to be rich. It's supposed to be about telling people a story about the brand. And that's something that we firmly believe in. So if you go through the Bombay Shaving Company website, you'll see rich media content. You'll see content that is evolutionary. You'll see content that enables people to find trust indicators. You'll see content that enables people to sort of choose, select, and check out very, very quickly, right? So that's the seamless data flow, and that's the seamless sort of tech flow that we have been able to build. We also see an opportunity for technology to come in and start building deeper relationship enablements with our consumer sets, which is where we have CRM that gets deployed on top of the frontware. So CRM is something that sort of sits both in the front and the middle, where we have our data repository being accessed by a very highly evolved CRM tool, which starts to customize, product recommendations. It starts to customize offers and lots of benefits to our end customer who's a loyalist and who's sort of coming back regularly. And the back end of all of this is where we have our warehouse management system, we have our courier partners, we have the payment gateway, and all of these get intermeshed into APIs where we are able to integrate the WMS, which is warehouse management system, along with the 3 or 4 other nuts and bolts and the bits and atoms that sort of help the WMS work robustly, which gets integrated with the front end, which is where your orders come in, which is a website, which right now for us, it runs on Shopify. And then we have the CRM stack, and which is also sort of plug and play, but we have built very deeply meaningful customer journeys in that space, right? So when you look at technology, it's to enable you to build out a destination that works very well, and you are data rich. Then there is dependence, or there's access to data that is there in third-party marketplaces, which enables you to understand the sector and the category. And then there was, of course, the technology piece, which was the social media piece. There is one technology layer that sort of sits on top of all of that, all of this, which is our business intelligence or the AI piece. I would use AI very, very generously here. It's not so much AI as yet. What it does is it looks at things like where would we end up getting the maximum return on advertising, for example, if we were to look at deeply meaningful audience sets on Facebook. And that's something that, of course, Alavi does really well. And I'm delighted with the kind of impact that they've been seeing. And then also in the second space, you, of course, have the BI piece, which sort of sits in-house, and then we are able to see inflection points when we are selling things to people. Where do you have the maximum return on orders? Where do you have the maximum sort of engagement and traction and highest ROI when we are selling to what location, right? So there's a geography piece to it, there's a age piece to it. So there's a complex data system which is then prepared in-house, which is a proprietary tool that we have, which enables us to look at the business intelligence across the platform, right? So I think technology is something that you have to invest in. Technology enables businesses to move forward. There are some third-party tools which will help you do things faster, better, with more agility. And for the rest of it, just make sure that you're being able to build out an agile system which runs for the business, and the business will sort of end up solving for the thing, right? That's the way we look at it. I don't know if that answers your question, though.
Yes, of course. Of course, you did answer the question. And thanks so much for mentioning Alavi as well and the work that Alavi is doing with Bombay Shaving Company right now. And it's fantastic in terms of you've really given guidelines on how online brands should leverage change and technology to grow their businesses through e-commerce. And just to wrap things up, I think we're running out of time right now. So just to wrap things up, what advice do you have for marketing and growth teams when it comes to dealing with rapid changes in the e-commerce space and in the offline retail space as well? Just a couple of pieces of advice to tie all of these amazing topics and pieces of information that we have discussed today.
It's a complex question, man. I wish I wish there was something I'm barely a guru when it comes to all of this. I think, and also I think things are changing so fast that there's little guidance to give, right? But here are a couple of anecdotes, and I don't know if that'll help anyone who's listening to the call. Um, and I'm only going to speak about the experiences that we have had Bombay Shaving Company, so it helps people contextualize things, right? Um, the world keeps saying that people have very low attention spans. That's true to some extent, but then there are also people who sit and binge watch a complete series on Netflix. So it's not low attention span. Okay, it's about relevance of content, and I think the world needs to and marketers need to recognize that if your content's relevant, then people will spend time. If it's irrelevant, then people won't spend time. Right? If you have the opportunity to tell a story, don't get fixated on the form. Get fixated on the relevance of that story. That's one. Don't get hijacked by building tech stacks that seem cool, or you've heard someone on a podcast say that there's a cool tech stack out there. Don't rely on people like us. Figure out what works for you, figure out what works for the business. Don't get hijacked by a tech stack. Okay. The tech is supposed to solve for the business, and it's not the other way around where the business starts solving for tech. So that's one. If you can outsource slash deploy something that is plug and play in the initial stages and learn from it, and that works for you, stick to it. No reason to sort of reinvent a working week, right? Make sure your team is aware of the tech changes that are happening across the world. For example, iOS, Facebook, big shift. Cookieless world, big shift. People searching for things in vernacular languages and using voice to search, huge shift, right? Um, People using lens to scan products and being able to find information off facts is a big shift. Uh, Recognize these shifts that are happening. Don't get stuck in exactly what you do every day. It's difficult to do so because we all get very operational, but it's also important to recognize these emerging trends. Talk to people who are outside your ecosystem and outside your network to understand what's working for them. Something that is working for consumer goods might work extremely well again for, let's say, the automobile industry, and something that's working in pharma might end up working really well for consumer goods without even knowing, right? It's very intuitive. So speak to people who are across categories and see what's working for them. You never know where learning comes from. And the last piece is please don't ignore what's happening offline. Offline is where the consumer engages with the product. You have a wealth of information that relies there. Please go out in the market if you're a consumer good. Go out, speak to people, spend some time at the retail level, understand where other brands are going right, understand what you can do, understand where other brands are going wrong, and maybe you can do better. But your assessment of consumer insights is only going to get stronger and far more meaningful if you're out on the ground and engaging with people who are at a store, and I think that's where the maximum amount of learning comes. And just keep it simple, keep it real, and keep reinventing whatever you think you know, because whatever you think you know is only as relevant as of yesterday, and tomorrow is just going to be completely different.
Thank you so much, Samriddh. I think that was the perfect way to really wrap up what we've been discussing. And it's really been such a great learning experience for us to have this discussion and conversation with you. And I'm sure that many of those who will listen to this podcast and our discussion with you would definitely learn a lot from it. So thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it. I know you have extremely demanding schedules, so we're delighted that we're able to have this opportunity with you. And thank you so much also to everyone who is listening to this and who took the time to learn more about how you should leverage change and technology to grow your business online. Thanks so much.
It's been a complete pleasure. Thank you so very much. All the best. Stay safe. Do well, guys.